Fine.
Everyone's been saying, hey Sam, how's that master class? Because I guess I'm the only one here who shelled out $90 to take Aaron Sorkin's writing master class.
Damn it, how could this have happened? Here's something important to remember about dialogue. No one ever in life starts a sentence with damn it.
It's funny because my mom actually sent me a link right before it came out. Oh, this is weird, so I bought it and I didn't realize it was like, that was the day it was released. So I got it and I started going through it and actually I was like, holy crap, this is really, really in-depth. And even though it's got a $90 price tag, once you break it down, it's like $2 per lesson. Honestly, that's pretty cool. I'm really interested in writing and everyone else here is. I mean, it's a big part of what we do here. Every video requires some sort of writing. Also, we are working on much larger projects that really require serious writing. So understanding how writing works is something that's just a constant practice of mine.
You know more in your head than you're able to put on the piece of paper. And so the first thing, that's why the first question I'm asking you after we read these things is, did you understand what you just read? That's always what I want to know when I'm done. Before we get to, is it good or bad?
This masterclass goes through a lot of techniques that specifically Aaron Sorkin uses. So I've started this class for about a week and a half here, and already though, it's pretty cool. By the way, this is not sponsored, this is no testimonial. Aaron Sorkin is a very prolific screenwriter. The course starts off with two things, which are intention and obstacles, using those as a driving core force in a story. It might seem obvious. It's very easy to miss sometimes when creating stories of your own. Intention as in, what is the character trying to do, accomplish, so on and so forth. What is driving them? What internal force in the character is bringing them scene to scene? And you know, these things don't need to be huge. Doesn't need to be huge plot points, but their existence helps just keep the ball rolling. Obstacles, pretty dang obvious. Things that you wouldn't expect to go wrong, going wrong, things getting in the way. Basically, things adding tension to that intention. This seems dead simple, but most of all, I think that intention is very easy to miss sometimes when thinking of a story, because very often you can get wrapped up in a character or the backstory or the background or the world or some cool lasers or costumes, and you know, just that simple drive, that simple scene by scene really, really helps.
I don't want to prod, but what happened?
I was installing Mac Drive to read that Mac formatted hard drive, and the Mac Drive was like, no.
Wow, so Nico, you tried to install a Mac
Drive.
Right.
They have an app or a program that lets you read Macintosh formatted drives on a PC. So there's no window, or there's no Macintosh.
Did you need to buy a Mac product in order to do this?
No.
What about Mac hardware? Did you have to buy Mac hardware?
No, didn't do any.
Did you have to like send Mac a secret exclusivity code?
I didn't have to do anything related to Steve Jobs whatsoever.
Really?
All I did was install
That's
Mac.
probably why it crashed.
All right, Spencer's into the repair console.
This is an Appalachian dulcimer, and I got it in Iceland. And why would I go to Iceland to buy an Appalachian dulcimer, which is technically an American instrument? Well,
you love music.
I do love music, but the thing is that we go to Iceland, and I am just looking at stuff to do, and I was thinking, wait a second, I love old medieval folk music and specifically folk metal, so I'm trying to find some sort of Icelandic folk instrument, and I found one called the Langspiel, which is basically, it looks like a box with a couple strings tied to the top of it. It's not a very pretty instrument, but it's a traditional Icelandic instrument. And in doing further research, I realized, wait a second, this Langspiel is actually, it's basically in this family of drone zithers and dulcimers and stuff. So there's lots of similar instruments to it. Anyways, so I go to Iceland, I go to this one little music shop, and I talk to the guy, say, hey, I'm looking for a Langspiel. And he's like, bad news. I'm like, what? He's like, well, the guy in Iceland who makes Langspiels died recently. And I was like, oh, damn. So what does that mean? It's like, well, you can't get a Langspiel now because no one's making them in more than quantities of one. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. And he's like, don't worry, actually, because they kind of sucked. He was just making them in his garage. They weren't that nice. Here, this is what you want. And he shows me this, the Appalachian dulcimer, and he says, it's exactly the same. Same strings, same tuning, same everything. It's just a different shape, but it's effectively the exact same instrument in almost every way other than superficially. So I'm like, okay, I'm sold, and I got it, and I started playing it, and I realized it was the coolest instrument ever because each time you strum a note, it turns into a medieval folk song. So it's like... anyway, so it's whatever. You know, it's fun to play. Play it on your lap. I wish you could play it like a guitar like this.
Hey Spencer, how's the computer? Still broken.
My broken computer makes me feel bad. Do you even need to ask that question? This is me when I'm sad.
Okay, let's see where we get hung up on again. We get hung up on Class PNP.
I did make it a little further than just the first episode. Aaron Sorkin approaches characters a lot differently than other writers and screenwriters, and that is to have an idea of the character, some sort of goal of what you want them to be. Characters become defined, and you understand these characters deeper as you go through scenes with them, and these decisions you choose for those characters. Those decisions on the page in the movie are the ones that define the characters, not the biography that you wrote for the character before you even started writing. Like, oh, they got a blue pair of shoes when they're 9, they got into a fight in junior high school when they're 13. It's like, all that stuff, what does that have to do with the scene you're writing? Like, unless there's like an active moment where they're like, hey, you're that person who beat me up when I was 13. Let the characters develop as you write them. The idea, is that you have the better understanding of the character after you're finished writing your piece than before you began it. Because you don't want to pigeonhole yourself in, because the more you start defining these characters and the more of a biography you write for them, the less opportunity you have to play with the character in that scene. I like that. It keeps things fluid, keeps things moving, impulsive, spontaneous, and more than anything else, lets the character be defined by the scenes that they are in, rather than the ones in their backstory that we haven't seen yet. So, there you go.